Wolf took the stand today in his own defense. This shocked and stunned the media, who predicted that he would not testify in the brutal double murder trial. Wolf is accused of killing the first little pig and the second little pig. Everybody knows the story of the three little pigs, or at least they think they do. Nobody knows the real story, because nobody has ever heard my side of the story. I'm Alexander T. Wolf. I don't know how this whole big bad wolf thing got started, but it's all wrong. Maybe it's because of our diet. Hey, it's not my fault wolves eat cute little animals like bunnies and sheep and pigs. The real story is about a sneeze and a cup of sugar. This is the real story. Way back, once upon a time, I was making a birthday cake for my dear old granny. But I had a terrible sneezing cold, and I had run out of sugar. So I walked down the street to ask my neighbor for a cup of sugar. Now, this neighbor was a pig, and he wasn't too bright either. He had built his whole house out of straw. Who in his right mind would build a house of straw? So, of course, the minute I knocked on the door, it fell right in. I didn't want to just walk into someone else's house, so I called, little pig, are you in? No answer. I was just about to go home without the cup of sugar for my dear old granny's birthday cake when my nose started to itch. I felt a sneeze coming on. I huffed, and I snuffed, and I sneezed a great big sneeze. And you know what? The whole darn straw house fell down. And right in the middle of the pile of straw was the first little pig, dead as a doornail. He had been home the whole time. It seemed like a shame to leave a perfectly good ham dinner lying in the straw. So I ate it up. I was feeling a little bit better after that, but I still didn't have my cup of sugar. So I went to the next neighbor's house. This neighbor was the first little pig's brother. He was a little smarter, but not much. He has built his house out of sticks. I rang the bell, and nobody answered. I called, Mr. Pig, are you in? He yelled back, Go away, Wolf. You can't come in. I'm shaving the hairs on my chinny chin. And suddenly I felt another sneeze coming on. I huffed, and I snuffed, and I tried to cover my mouth, but I sneezed a great sneeze. And you're not going to believe this, but the guy's house fell down like his brother's. When the dust cleared, there was the second little pig, dead as a doornail. Wolf's honor. Now, you know food will spoil if you just leave it out in the open, so I did the only thing there was to do. I had dinner again. I was getting awfully full, but my cold was feeling a little bit better. However, I still didn't have the cup of sugar for my cake. So I went to the next house. This guy was the first and second little pig's brother. He must have been the brains of the family because he had built a house of bricks. I knocked on the brick house, and no one answered. I called, Mr. Pig, are you in? And do you know what that rude little porker answered? Get out of here, Wolf. Don't bother me again. Talk about impolite. He probably had a whole sack full of sugar. What a pig. I was just about to go home and maybe make a nice birthday card instead when I felt my cold coming on. I huffed, and I snuffed, and I sneezed once again. The third little pig stuck his head out of the window, laughed, and yelled, And your old granny can't sit on a pin. Now, I'm usually a pretty calm fellow, but when someone talks about my granny like that, I go a little crazy. When the cops drove up, of course, I was trying to break down this pig's door. And the whole time I was puffing and sneezing and making a real scene. The rest, as they say, is history. The news reporters figured a sick guy going to borrow a cup of sugar didn't sound very exciting, so they jazzed up the story with all that huff and puff and blow your house down. And they made me the big bad wolf. That's it, the real story. I was framed.